6 years ago today, at this hour, I was up here approaching Erie, Pennsylvania. Imagine this, a map of Pennsylvania. I was approaching halfway after leaving Philadelphia on a one-lap perimeter run around the state of Pennsylvania. I was on day 17 of a 39-day, 1,022-mile run around the perimeter, pushing a fully loaded jogging stroller filled with everything that was needed, overloaded, much of it through harsh weather, extreme traffic conditions, over the Appalachian Mountain chain twice, once at the bottom, Route 30 primarily, and then at the top along the northern tier it's called, beautiful Route 6, coming back east. So basically from the Philadelphia suburbs, 13 miles outside Lancaster Avenue, down to Pittsburgh, up to Erie, over to Scranton, down to Philly, 39 days. The reason I did it was 2 years prior to that, I had completed cancer treatment, cancer survivor. And I was scared, after successfully completing the treatment, scared that I was not going to do anything important with my life. Scared to death that I was, and it was going to collapse short and the end was near. So what I decided was to perform the most audacious act I could think of and to pursue the most audacious goal I could imagine. The most audacious act I could think of was the one-lap Forrest Gump-like run. The audacious goal was to reform our nation's political system. Forget cancer cures. I wanted to reform our nation's political system. The organization that now has taken that on is called Fair Districts Pennsylvania. That's the startup, a nonprofit. The goal is to reform how we redraw the boundaries, the political boundaries, every 10 years in Pennsylvania, Fair Districts Pennsylvania. There are like-minded groups in other states, but every 10 years, as we know, we redraw both the state and federal boundaries in Pennsylvania, and the way it's done now is your elected officials redraw them to favor themselves. That's Fair Districts Pennsylvania shortly, and I'm happy to share more about that. But what I wanted to do was share more about the run. A lot of us are speaking about fair districts, about redistricting. I wind up talking more about the run because I enjoy talking about it. A few things I learned during the run. Learned some lessons. Some useless information, some maybe metaphors for bigger things. One is your body, under the right conditions, can metabolize 7,000 to 8,000 calories a day. I learned that easily. That's what was needed to get through the whole ordeal. I had packed in this jogging stroller all my gear with the intention of sleeping outdoors overnight at certain points. There was a support crew, but it was a solo run. During the run, I was all alone, no Winnebago and the like. But my position was being tracked, and anyone could track me. The news media, especially local news media, catching up with me, was on TV several times. CNN joined me a couple of times. But my worry and concern was how and where was I going to bed down every night. So the thought was I was going to need to be sleeping outdoors, something that I had not done in years and was not looking forward to do, but I was planning to do it. Not one of those days, those 38 nights that I was on the road, did I have to sleep outdoors. It's good to be prepared. It's important to be prepared. But know that in life or in your ventures, whatever they may be, you can also overplan. And I learned some solutions opened up on the way. In terms of lodging, what you'll find out, or what I realized was, especially on Route 30 and Route 6, these were the major corridors that Americans settled, our great country 200 and 300 years ago. What I discovered was that every 20 to 30 miles, there is a village or some refuge in Pennsylvania, a small town or a hamlet, that had a cheap motel, most of which you wouldn't want to stay in ever. But that was my goal every evening, was to get to the next cheap budget motel. What I realized, though, that these hamlets probably were settled 200 or 300 years ago, when it wasn't some crazy guy pushing a jogging stroller, but it was people on a horse or in a Conestoga wagon going down Conestoga Road here, who were traversing about the distance that a dude could push a jogging stroller. And that's how I discovered that there was a place for me every evening. I learned about here on the way to Pittsburgh near Bedford that if you're pushing a jogging stroller into the wind, pouring rain, 40 degrees, in a heavily trafficked area, and you're near a hospital, that people will call the state police and you will be pulled over. And I was pulled over multiple times, multiple incidences. I realized that perhaps one of the greatest protections I had was that people thought I was pushing a baby in a jogging stroller, and therefore vehicles stayed away from me most of the time. Many other stories. Each day was a story unto itself. But what I want to tell you is that that feeling I have about still not doing anything important is still with me. I was not able to extinguish that feeling by going through that effort and completing the run. What has happened, though, is that this issue of political redistricting reform and reforming our nation's political system has exploded in popularity due to the glorious events that occurred last November in America. And it's interesting, I think, that sometimes you have a plan and you have big goals, but you also have to take advantage of serendipitous things that occur along the way. And what we're doing right now, and I'm happy to share more afterwards about this Fair Districts PA effort, is that we are turning lemons into lemonade here. And even though there's a lot of work ahead, we're pushing a big boulder up a big mountain and around the state. We're optimistic that we can get this done before the next redistricting in 2020. Thank you.